caught a job, you can't ignore it. I'm transforming now these cars and planes, I'm always boarding.
Thank you guys for tuning in. Today you're listening to Life at the Apex podcast with Farouk, and we've got a special guest on our show, one of UK's MMA top fighter, Tim Wild. Tim, how you doing?
I'm good, mate. I'm very good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, I'm very well, thank you, mate. Just long day, but you know, it's glad to kind of sit down with you and have a chat.
Yeah,
So,
appreciate you having me on, mate. Thank you.
nah, no worries, man. It's a pleasure, and thank you for coming on as well. Just wanted to kick off really, just to say, how's your day been? What you've been up to? I know we briefly touched on it earlier. You said you've been busy training. So you mentioned earlier you had 2 sessions today so far.
Yeah, so today, like this morning, I was in Birmingham training with Brad, doing my jiu-jitsu over there at like Fearless MMA. Kind of the stage I'm at the minute. I'm using this week and next week, these 2 weeks as like a pre-camp before camp starts. I'll do like 8-week camp. So yeah, we were just kind of working overall game rather than specifics for opponents. But then kind of pushed harder in the sparring rounds after. We did about 8 rounds of grappling sparring after. That was a good session. Race back. Story of my life. I feel like I'm in my car all the time. But yeah, race
Oh
back.
man, tell me about it.
Yeah, cooked, refueled, and then this afternoon I've been over with Shiny at Box Smart Elite, and yeah, similar kind of stage with him. We upped the intensity of the session, but still just working general game and developing, growing, always learning. We're not quite in fight camp yet.
Yeah, man, because you're fighting what on September the 14th, is it?
Yes.
So you got
That's the one.
some time to tinker and play, right?
Absolutely, mate. Listen, this is my job, so I'm always 70-80% there anyway. So I don't need big lung camps because, as I say, I'm always relatively fit and I'm always out in with the team, as you see, and helping the guys and stuff. So
Yeah,
yeah,
lovely, man. You're always ready to go, man.
that's it,
Anytime
mate.
that you have to be, like you said, it's your job. So you know, some people I think they're unfit out of camp, and then they all of a sudden have to do some crazy adjustments, lifestyle changes, and then it's like a massive shock. But I think you know the guys at the top, they live it really, don't they? Like yourself, it's just part of your lifestyle. You don't have to make a lot
You
of
have,
adjustments.
yeah, you have to at the level I fight at. Like something could come on short notice. I know my weight's at a certain weight, and I can be fight fit in 3 weeks. Obviously, a full fight camp really it's not about getting fit or losing fat. It's about preparing for some certain individual at this stage.
Mm.
But to be honest, that should like kind of, in my opinion, roll down into amateurs anyway. Like you shouldn't be in this sport and using fight camps to like fat camps or like you should always be there or thereabouts and building your craft, learning, growing. And then as an amateur, you just you don't want to be doing big weight cuts and just fighting regularly, get the experience. The level of MMA now, even at an amateur level, is just consistently growing. So yeah, especially since I moved to Renegade, so the last 5 years, you can't not be fit there or not be like 70% there because you're just gonna get kicked in. So
No, definitely, man. We're going to get into that juicy part as well in terms of training preparation and mindset. But before we get into the juicy part, tell us a bit about your background. So, you know, the typical kind of questions, you know, what made you get into MMA? I know it's a cliche question, but like, what made you start your journey?
well, it was I stumbled upon the Tough One series.
Okay.
Forrest. I don't know if you remember the fight, Forrest Griffin and Stephen
I remember
Bonner, and
Forrest. Yeah, it's
um,
old school guys,
yeah,
right?
it was like the
Yeah, yeah.
first ever Ultimate Fighter, and I just got roped into it, and I hadn't, although I was a martial artist, and like quite a competitive one, I hadn't ever heard of MMA. I was a points like semi-contact martial artist. I did karate. That was my background, and I've always been like sporting, athletic, and stuff. But I'd never heard of MMA. I'd always liked to fight. Got into a few scraps at school, and when you leave school and stuff like that. And just there was just a natural progression from the martial arts that I did.
Sorry,
as
Tim.
a,
Sorry to
you're
interrupt
right.
you. I was going to say before I forget. You mentioned the point scoring aspect of karate. How
Mm.
have you found that? Has it had any synergies in mixed martial arts in terms of just like getting in and out of space? Like, how has that benefited your MMA game? Would you say the karate style of point touching, if you know what I'm saying, scoring,
Uh,
should I say?
Very early on, like I like, because it was a transition straight from karate, pretty much. Without there was a few. I tried boxing, kickboxing, but then I got into MMA, and yeah, I mean, like it was just, yeah, it just kind of worked for me. I was able to kind of hit people and not get hit, control range very well, distance very well, and I flew through the amateurs. I think I went like 9-1 as an amateur, and I went pro pretty quick. I mean, I started MMA in around 2011. I had my pro debut 2013. It was less than 2 years. It was, and yeah, it gave me a good base for MMA. I really enjoy karate. I did it as a kid a lot. I competed all over the world. I was very lucky that I had a supportive family, and I was able to do so. I felt very privileged, and especially as I got into like adolescent age and that mid-teens, I just loved it, man. And I'm all ever since I was a baby, apparently, like according to my parents, I was always competitive, and ever since I can remember, always competitive, want to win everything. And it doesn't matter how petty it is, like a race to the top of the stairs. I'm like it now with my son who's 7.
You're
He's
still
gonna be just like me.
there.
Yeah. So yeah, yeah. Sorry, I kind of went off a bit on a
No,
tangent,
no,
but
that
like,
was
yeah,
me, man. I kind of probed the karate because we had to get, otherwise it would have been the same.
yeah, but
Let's
like,
uncover that.
yeah, it gave me a good base. But I think as I've developed my style over the last 20 odd fights pro, um, it ain't enough to just have that in and out point. You got to be
Mm.
able to check deal with low kicks from Thai boxers. You got to be able to type with your hands from boxers and stuff. So you have to open your mind to other martial arts. But it was very much a good base, especially to start.
Like you said
And
in terms, yeah. Sorry, carry on.
okay. I couldn't remember where we got with the previous
Okay.
question, but yeah, you
Yeah, we
carry
was
on,
talking
mate.
about what got you into MMA, but then we segued into karate because I picked up on your point scoring part of your karate, and then now we're
Yeah.
talking about yeah, we brought it back in, haven't we, in regards to it's not just point scoring at the top of the game. You're gonna have to incorporate other things like you've mentioned, and I wanted to use that part of our conversation now to talk about your fight with Sol Rogers.
Mhm.
Looking back at that fight, I mean, that was an amazing fight, man. In terms of stringing things together, like some of the scrambles, he's going to shoot on you. You just roll through some of the takedowns, and in terms of framing, getting up, just using your timing and stuff like that. How was the preparation for that fight in terms of your karate style and then bringing it together to nullify a wrestling type of fight that you were facing?
Well, yeah, I mean, as I said, like when I kind of went pro, I really had to develop my game. I was training more jiu-jitsu, more wrestling. And to be honest with you, I love training that sometimes even more than striking, because I've done striking ever since I was a little kid. But yeah, like I've developed, I kind of found out quickly that because I had such an awkward striking style, a lot of people wanted to wrestle me. So my anti-grappling, anti-wrestling, my defensive kind of grappling wrestling kind of had to be good. So I had to train it from very early on in my pro career. And then, yeah, when I was already of a level, I was already difficult to take down. And I've got a very good gas tank, so I'll always work to get up. I don't, I've been training over 10 years. I don't give necessarily submissions away. People have to work hard to keep me down and submit me, or, ground and pound me out or whatever. But yeah, like since I moved to Renegade in 2020, so it's only been 4 years. But like Leon's anti-grappling system that he coaches
I
there
love the
and
way you call it
passes on.
anti-grappling system. It's like an anti-climb, anti-climb paint and stuff. It's like you're not getting past me.
It's like what it is, mate. It's like if I don't stop the takedown
Yeah.
and nullify it anyway, if you get me down, you're gonna have a fucking hard time keeping me down. Do you know what I mean? So, and Leon's brilliant. He's proved that against the best wrestlers in the world. And he's took it to another level. He's like out wrestling some of these awesome wrestlers. So, we hit that every week at training, and we've just got a good. Well, I say he has, and then I think it's filtered down through the likes of me and Fabian and Jai Herbert, etc. We've just got such a good system. We've just got so many go-tos that we just know where to put ourselves um, to avoid that position if
Like
we
it's
don't
seamless,
want to
ain't it?
be there. Yeah, and that really, as it's building up to, that really kind of gave me that confidence with Saul. With him being such a dominant, strong wrestler and grappler and a physical specimen, I knew I was going to have a hard time. But I just knew that wherever he put me, I was going to be able to deal with it and get out. And as I did in the fight.
So how does that translate to your mindset? Because a lot of it's, you see some big, strong guys that can have it off, but the mental aspect of the game can sometimes let a fighter down. How do you make sure you're switched on? So let's say you got fight week, you got nerves coming up, you're thinking about your opponent, you're training for their style in fight camp. Like what advice would you give essentially to other fighters out there that are kind of exploring or fighting for the first time, or they just turned pro, to get over those kind of nerves, anxiety, the negative thoughts, etc., for in regards to your opponent?
Yeah. I mean, I think you're always going to feel some sort of, I don't like to call it nerves. I don't even feel like it's nerves. I like to say like apprehension or kind of, for me, one of the biggest things is I don't ever feel nervous or scared of an individual. I mean, I know what I'm signing up for 10 weeks before, and I've been doing this a long time, but like,
But we're all
I'm
human, aren't we,
more.
at the end of the day?
Yeah, you're about to have a physical fight with somebody, so there's the apprehension that like I want to know that I'm going to perform to the best of my ability. So that's where, if anything, I feel a bit of that. But I've had so many now, and the people I move around with in the gym, it's like I don't kind of get those feelings now. It's more an excitement, and like I've got a good process. I work with a mind coach as well, and I'm very very confident when I step in there. But for advice to young up and coming fighters, where do you get your confidence from? You get your confidence from knowing that you've put the hours on the mat with people that are better than you. You've been submitted hundreds of times. You've been punched and kicked, and you've learned and grown in that gym. If you're going in knowing that you are fully prepared, there's been no stone left unturned. That's where your confidence comes from. If you're going in there knowing, oh fucking hell, I was eating Mackey's 4 weeks out, and I had a week off training because I couldn't be asked, then those little thoughts are gonna be playing in the back of your mind. So that's where I get my confidence from. I know I work hard, and I'll put myself in there in the lion's den, and yeah,
That's beautiful, man.
that's
Because
my
you have to have
advice.
that mindset, don't you? Like you said, you have to believe in the confidence, is trust in the process, that you haven't left anything unturned, and you've turned up, done what you need to do, and that builds your confidence every day. I suppose as you maintain that discipline every day, you look back on the day and reflect. Let's say you hit the sack tonight, and you'll be like, "How was my day? It was solid. Like I trained twice, I ate right, I was mindful, I did some stretching. Stuff like that." Do you tend to recap per day as well?
Yeah, I do, to be honest. Like it's not a diary, it's more like a reflection, notes on
Mm,
the day, and things that go well in training, things that perhaps I want to work on to go better in the next training session, and just having a positive mindset
mm.
helps things. And that's something like Rich, the English hypnotist who I work with, he's helped me a lot with. Never really been. I'm not a very negative person as a
Yeah.
rule anyway. I'm quite a happy, go positive person anyway. But some of the tools he's given me to work with has helped, and continues to help massively. Your mindset's everything. At the end of the day, the level we fight at, we can all bang, we can all wrestle, we can all submit people. We all want to win. We're all game. None of us are like, we all know what we're getting into. We've all trained 10, 15 years, the level we're at now. Now it's about like who's got the best mindset, who's got the
Mm.
best game plan, and who can make it work on the night under the lights, with 10,000 people watching. That's how it
Just
is.
Yeah, just get in there, man. So in terms of adversity, because that kind of links in with mindset. So this is probably a bit more of a personal question. So yeah, feel free to dismiss it and we can move on. But in terms of you growing up, what's the most adverse event that you've experienced? You don't have to go into detail, but how has that fashioned you, who you are today in terms of a person? In terms of when have you gone in through some certain difficult moment in your life and you've had to overcome it, and how's that
Um,
impacted you today?
I mean, there isn't like
What
uh,
pivotal?
to be
Yeah, yeah,
boring. There isn't like one pivotal
yeah. I get that.
event
Yeah,
in
yeah.
my life that happened. I'm very lucky. I come from a good family. I've got
Mm,
good friends.
it's a
But as
blessing, man.
regards to adversity, I have been through a lot. Especially through my career, with injuries, loss. But I always think like some of my best performances and best fights, when you talk about the Saul Rogers fight, and the fight following that, I fought an American Greco world champion wrestler called Chris Gonzalez, both elite wrestlers. But for both of those camps, I could barely wrestle, um, because I had a seriously horrible injury. I would never wish it on anyone, man. It's
Shit.
disgusting. Except for my new opponent. I hope he gets it.
What can you disclose that
It
injury
was
or not
yeah,
really?
yeah, of
Yeah.
course, yeah. It was like sciatica, basically.
Okay,
I don't know
okay.
if you've
Yeah,
ever
yeah.
suffered it with yourself.
I have
Well,
a
it's
little bit down
disgusting.
the right leg. Down the right leg,
It's
man.
disgusting, mate. I had it severe, and I had it through the Saul fight, and I managed to do enough of a camp to feel ready to fight him.
Hmm.
Following that fight, I went away on holiday, had a break from training, had a like a rest period, then
Yeah.
eased back into training sensibly, and it started flaring up again. Not only flaring up again as bad as it was before, but worse. And I'd signed a fight agreement to fight Chris in Paris, and I couldn't wrestle. That was a fight there was a lot of adversity and a lot of apprehension about. Was I hadn't wrestled really for God, out of the 8 week camp, probably hadn't wrestled for about 6 weeks. And for 2 of the weeks, it was that bad. The pain was. All I could do was walk, swim, and stretch. And so I wasn't training striking, jiu-jitsu, anything.
How
And
many
that was
weeks
like
out were you from the fight?
about three.
Bloody
So I
hell.
think no, sorry. The end of that 2 weeks, I
Yeah.
was 3 weeks out. So it was mid camp. But I managed to get it. I managed to calm it down. I ended up having to have like an epidural injection, and it calmed it down. And I was just able to train for the last 2 weeks, and then you taper off fight week anyway. But I remember cutting weight, walking to the scales, thinking because cutting weight is a horrible process anyway. But walking to the
Mm.
scales, thinking could barely walk. I was thinking, how the hell am I going to fight this man tomorrow? I can literally barely walk. But following that fight, I took a complete break away from MMA, and I did I think it was like 8 or 12 weeks solid physio rehab with a very good physio. I stayed away from all training that was aggravating it. And basically it just didn't fix it. It was like the damage was too far gone. So I ended up having to have a minor surgery on my lower back following that fight. And that was
Hmm.
I think that was in the August of 2023. So yeah, that I mean that I've had a lot of adversity. I tore my ACL and my MCL in my right knee. That was 2 ligaments out of
Bloody
4,
hell.
completely tore. I was out for a year with that. So I've broke my hands, I've torn ribs, I've cut, look, all things that
So,
a lot of
so,
fighters
so
do.
yeah. So you just
But
go
most of
through
my
it.
adversity's been since I started MMA. So you know what I mean? It's questionable. Should I
Yeah,
keep going?
it's linked right in, but no, that's crazy. What happened to you back then? Why did you think you got sciatica? Did it just come out of nowhere, or was it something
But
specific that caused it to flare up?
I think naturally, perhaps didn't hold the best posture. I had a
Mm.
few years before starting MMA where I used to train a lot of gym, but I knew nothing about it. So everything I used to do was push, push, push. I never used to train
Mm.
my back pull. And then getting into wrestling, when you're young, you don't warm up properly, you don't stretch off after, you wrestle hard and you can get away with it. And I think the load of wrestling, like you look at I think the most common injury in MMA is neck injuries and stuff with the spine and the back. So anybody I know who fights
Yeah.
MMA at high level have had back problems. So I think it was just, yeah, wear and tear, load. But yeah, mate, touch wood, like since I've had that surgery, it's been golden.
Thank
I've
God, man.
rehabbed that properly. I've fought again twice since then, and the fight actually following the surgery was against like a collegiate American high level wrestler as well. So yeah, I knew I was good. Yeah, so
Good, man. You're
but
blessed, man.
yeah, a lot. Yeah, so a lot of my adversities come through training, injuries, fighting, and stuff. So, but yeah, I was bullied a little bit as a kid for having red hair, but nothing
Mm.
major. Heartbreak from girlfriends, whatever.
Yeah.
But no real adversity.
No crazy kind of like I fell off a cliff and I got
Yeah.
airlifted off or nothing like that. Yeah. No, that's cool, man. We've all been through it, man. Through the depths of the dungeon. You know, I'm a brown man in a white area when I was young. You know, so I've faced discrimination too. So it's cool, man. I can relate. Yeah. Okay, cool. So let's move on. Then you've got a fight coming up. What, September? We said, right? How's that going? Is it a specific strategy? I know you can't probably give any insights into that, into your opponent. I'm very bad with pronunciation, so you might have to help me pronounce your opponent's name. Mark, how we pronounce his surname, Tim? Or shall I try then, and you want to follow up?
I think I like again. I think it's Diakisi. I was saying
I think it's
Diakisi.
Jacasey, I believe.
Yes, that
Jacasey.
sounds right.
I was going to go Diakisi. I was going to go with that first, but I thought, Tim soften the blow for me so I don't look like I don't know what I'm talking about. But yeah, apologies, Mark, getting your name wrong and stuff, but we'll try.
Mark Diakisi,
yeah.
Yeah, it's a big fight, man. He's the newest signing to PFL Bellator. There's some real hype and noise behind him. You know, he's had an extensive career in the UFC. I kind of they released the poster on the fight Friday. I kind of knew a few days before that. Yeah, I jumped on the opportunity. You know, when they offered him me, I was like, yeah, please, I'll take that fight. I think it's a good fight. In fact, I've seen him probably 2 weeks before I was matched up with him. I seen him at a PFL event, shook his hand, asked if he was all right.
Just randomly.
Yeah, well,
you
I've
had
seen
no
him on
idea
the
that you're going to fight him at that
Yeah,
point.
I mean, whether he knew or not, I don't know,
okay.
but I didn't know at that time. But you know, I was just like, "Oh, how you doing, Mark? You good?" And he was, "Yeah." We had a little chat and then moved on. I always say hello to him whenever I see him, you know, and he does the same. We kind of know each other through the scene. We've got a lot of mutual friends and whatnot. Yeah, it's a big fight. I'm very happy that they've given me a big fight after following my last fight, you know, and like it motivates me. And I mean, I'm more motivated than ever following the last fight anyway. So to have a big name to get in and be able to showcase that to everyone, even better, you know.
It's going to be amazing, man. I can see you coming out on top, God willing, man. His last fight, was that in the UFC? Because I know he used to fight in the UFC before, didn't he?
Yeah, he's actually just he won his last fight in the UFC out in Brazil as well in enemy territory. Yeah, he's good, man. It's gonna be. I've got my hands full, you know. I'm sure he feels the same though. You know, we both kind of like very experienced. We're both game. We're both exciting strikers. We can both wrestle. It's going to make for a fun fight, and I think it's going to be whoever can make their game plan work the most. So yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to it. You know, as I say, there's no bad energy there. I ain't got a problem with him. I think he's done great in the sport, and I'm looking forward to challenging myself against him. You know.
No, definitely, man. So let's say you win this fight, then Tim, what's next, man? After you beat Mark, hopefully, what's next for you, man?
Well, I think like, you know, following the last fight, I thought, you know, I'm back down the pecking order. I was all fed up and down in the dumps. But like, it feels to me like if I'd have beat him, I would have moved up the ladder. You know, I probably was sitting in around the top 10 anyway. They don't really do rankings now, Bellator, since they've changed to Bellator Challenger Series. Or I haven't seen any yet anyway. But like, you kind of look on Fight Matrix and things like that. And yeah, I was sitting, I think, about ninth or eighth. And yeah, you know, I had that loss, and then I thought, right, okay, I've got to work my way back up again, a couple of fights before I get a big name again. And then they offered me this guy, and I'm like, yeah. But the way I see it is, when I beat Mark September, it's going to propel me kind of further in front than what beating the last guy would have done anyway, and it puts me right back in the mix in the contenders in the division. So you know, I know Shabali and Nurmagomedov, they're fighting in San Diego the week before me, so I'll be watching that. Obviously, tuning in. They are the two best in the division, in my opinion. The two best lightweights in the division. They're rightly so fighting it out for the belt. You know, and I wanna be seeing one of those names in the next year. You know, maybe
definitely, man.
When I beat Mark, whether there's somebody else I have to fight first, and then one of those two. That's where, you know, that's my aspirations, and that's what my aim and goals are. So I'll keep working towards that. So I don't, you know, I have my long-term goals, but I'm not looking past Mark. You know,
Yeah,
like Mark,
yeah,
I need to be there and
of
switched
course,
on for
man.
him. So
No, 100%, Tim. And then just to wrap it up, then, so what is one piece of what's your favorite quote or piece of advice you've been given by someone else that you always it sticks with you? You know, that gets you through. Just generally, you know, might not be something too grand, but it's something that you know you try and live by
I was just laughing because I was thinking,
it.
I was just thinking of something silly that it says it's silly, but there is
Yeah,
like,
there's nothing silly. They say no silly question, don't they? That's what they say, don't they?
yeah, well, it's just like a kind of a bit of a subliminal message I say to my
Mm,
son regularly. And if ever he's like finding something hard or you know, he struggling with anything, I'll look him in the eyes and I go, we don't quit in this house.
mm.
And it's like he's like, and now he'll say that he'll be like, you know, like I don't want to go jiu-jitsu tonight, Dad. And I'll look at him dead fast. I'll be like, and he goes, I know, we don't quit in this house. But what I'm trying to instill
It's
into him
good.
is
Yeah,
that kind of never give up attitude. So it's all done in jest and joke, but you know, just keep going, man. Like, you know, like nothing is ever that bad, you know. Like, just keep going, keep chasing your dreams, never give up, man. And like, you know, that's my kind of mindset with things.
and
Like, that's what advice I'll give somebody coming up. Just keep going.
best advice,
Because
and that's what I live by myself, Tim. But sorry, you was gonna say.
I was going to say, I'm sure someone famous probably said it much better, but I've heard like, you know, like metaphors and phrases or whatever,
Mm.
where it's like, I can't quite think how it's worded exactly, but if you never give up, like you never lose as such, or something along the lines of that. It's like as long as you keep going, you're always winning, aren't you? You are the only time you quit is when you stop. If you
Yeah,
don't
like if you
stop, you're not
turn up,
like,
if you
you know what
turn,
I'm
yeah,
saying?
yeah, like if something like if you turn up, you don't try, you'll never succeed, kind of thing. It's
Yeah,
like
exactly.
and then you'll never know if you would have succeeded. You'll just fail anyway.
And that's it, mate. And like, set your goals high, and then you know, chasing that goal, and you know, like I feel like I'm winning anyway. Do you know what I'm saying, mate? I'm winning in life. I get to do what I love for a job, so I'm winning
It's
already. You know.
it's a blessing, man. And one of my favorite quotes is the only constant is change. I love that because everything's changing all the
Okay,
time, you know. So
yeah,
for
that's
me,
nice.
that's powerful, man. The only constant is change. You just keep cracking on. Circumstances change, it changes. It's inevitable. You know, nothing's permanent. And see, I'm gonna go off on one now. Got myself started, but I'm like, I'm just throwing out quotes. Pain is never permanent. Neither is pleasure. So if you
Yeah,
accept that both pain and pleasure are both temporary, then you're never going to struggle. And just know that when you're sad, you'll be happy. And when you're happy, you'll be sad. Do you know what I mean? Even when
yeah,
you live in your best life, you will become sad at some point and just accepting that cycle. And I think
yeah.
those kind of
What
three
have you got?
quotes,
And what have you got to do? You just got to keep going, and yeah, you get
keep
me.
going.
Like
And
it's
what was your quote again to your son?
we don't quit in this
We
house.
don't quit, man. Keep going, and just keep going.
Mate, keep going, yeah.
But on
No, it's
that
good,
note,
mate.
no, Tim, go on. Sorry, I was just going to say on that note, man. Thank you for your time, man. Appreciate after a long graft and hard day at work. So appreciate you for coming on, and hopefully probably see you soon on the mats.
Yeah, man. All right, brother. Thank you.
All right, Tim.